The work you do and the challenges you face in your counties and wards confirm a fundamental truth that this country is still work in progress. Devolution too is a work in progress. You have made good progress, but we still have more work to do. I am here today to share with you our vision for getting the work that remains done and why we want you to be part of this journey. The most important role of a leader in any society is to solve problems. They used to tell us in school that this is a problem, find a solution. The biggest problem our country faces today and in the foreseeable future is how to create and expand opportunities for all Kenyans and share those opportunities equitably and fairly. There is a deep feeling by a large section of Kenyans that they are stuck in and condemned to poverty. That, however, they have, however hard they work, their fortunes never change for better. I talk to a lot of Kenyans of all ages and social status. I get the feeling that majority of Kenyans don't really fear for themselves. They fear for their children. Parents fear the possibility of their children inheriting the difficulties they have gone through over the years, or even worse. Nobody wants their children to go through the difficulties that they went through. Children fear the possibility of inheriting the difficulties they see their parents go through every day. In a country where opportunities are dwindling each passing day, while a small clique swims in wealth whose sources cannot be explained. The father who never went to school wants to be sure this country will make it easier, not harder or impossible for his children to go to school. The father who educated his family by crushing stones at mjengo or pushing wheelbarrows wants to be sure his sons and daughters will not have to rely on the same tools for a living. The single mother who brought up her children selling fruits and vegetables by the roadside under scorching sun wishes to see her children do business in a modern, ventilated market. The parents who worked hard, got all the relevant academic papers, but failed to get their dream jobs because they could not pay a bribe or they were from the wrong tribe, want to be sure that their children will inherit a country where merit and skills, not tribes and second names, are what count. Kenyans are therefore looking for leaders who can realistically address the growing inequality, the lack of opportunities, and lack of upward social mobility. We therefore have to constantly seek new ways to grow our economy while helping more of our people to participate in that growth. Reforms is therefore a must in our country. Some people are telling us that reforms have to wait until we have resources. Yet without these reforms, resources will continue to dwindle. I have said it, there is more work to be done. The BBI is about that extra work. For this economy to produce enough jobs for our growing youth population, we must diversify and spread as many job creation opportunities to as many parts of the country as we can. BBI seeks to ensure that opportunities for job creation are not confined to the cities and towns. That's why the BBI seeks to anchor in the Constitution a new economic model that focuses on value creation, promotes industrialization, and supports small and micro enterprises. BBI seeks to address the gaps in the 2010 Constitution by ensuring that the economic and social rights are enforceable and not just aspirations. It is focused on baking a bigger cake, protecting the same and ensuring equitable sharing, what we call tupike, tulinde, tugawe kwa haki. You have other issues that may not be directly economic in nature, but have serious impact on our economy, like elections, for instance. Elections must cease being civil wars. BBI seeks to usher in an electoral system where every vote is counted and every vote counts. This country comes to a standstill and loses billions, jobs and lives every election year due to violence. Already the drums of war are being sounded, and it is easy to tell how it will end. And yesterday I was telling them, we are still more than 1.5 years to the elections. Yet they are behaving as these elections are tomorrow. We have to decide whether we want elections or civil wars every 5 years. We want our country to be at the front line of Kenya's recovery and growth. And that cannot be the case if 2 years before the elections, the country comes to standstill. And 1 year after the elections, it still comes to standstill. So in a cycle of 5 years, the country is working for only 2 years. That is itself the cause of our problems. We want every village to be able to create jobs and businesses for residents. That is why we are pushing for a 70-year tax break for the youth-owned enterprises and businesses incubation centers across the country and at ward levels. That is why we are seeking to increase financial resources to counties. It is the reason we have a Ward Development Fund. It is the reason we are increasing the lifespan of the Equalization Fund from 20 years to 30 years. Because some people don't understand where we were, how we landed where we are. If you look at the first real serious economic blueprint of this country, Session of paper number 10 of 1965, African Socialism and is planning for an application of planning in Kenya. It said that the government should invest in high-yielding regions with high potential for growth, and that the marginalized regions will benefit from the trickle-down effect of development in those high-yielding areas. Yaani yale eneo ambayo hazina rutuba na kadhalika watanufaika kulingana na makombo ambayo itatoka kwa meza pale wale wengine wanakulia. That is responsible for an equal development in our country. Marginalization of other parts of the country. And that is why we said we needed to introduce Equalization Fund. Because of the difficulties that have been, that has not been implemented for the last 10 years. That's why we're increasing it for another 10 years, so that those other regions which were left behind can be able to catch up with other regions. We are creating the County Assembly Fund because we believe that independent and strong assemblies are critical to holding county executive to account and ensuring prudent expenditure for development on the ground. Our overall goal in BBI is to ensure equitable growth throughout Kenya. We are looking for ways to narrow the development gap between the regions. I believe this is what we should be focused on as a nation. It is the conversation we should be having, how to ensure every part of this country and all our citizens are involved in helping bake a bigger cake and ensuring each person gets a fair share. As ward representatives, you see the desperation of people in the villages daily. I know I'm talking to the people here who wake up daily in their rural homes only to confront queues of desperate voters looking for help. Similar queues await you in your offices when you report to work. The sad truth is, such queues will not end unless we put serious thinking into how to help our people help themselves. I'm here to see our opponents present better alternatives to what the BBI proposes. They will tell you, right now, the issue number one is the economy. Let us address the issue of economy and forget about BBI. Do it with the elections of 2022. I'm not convinced that the solutions we are proposing to address poverty and inequality in our country should be discarded and replaced with wheelbarrows. I doubt there is an MCA in this room who genuinely believes that if each person in the ward received a wheelbarrow today, the people would get rich and they will be able to fend for themselves. There is only so much a wheelbarrow can do. And I know that a wheelbarrow is needed in a construction site, used to carry kokoto to the building site. I don't know what else you use a wheelbarrow for. Today, some people are telling us to stop thinking about the future because the current situation is difficult enough. I'm not convinced that we should postpone these problems. If we stop thinking about the future because of today's problems, be sure we shall never catch up with the future. We must invest in tomorrow today. There is the story of US President Abraham Lincoln, who described himself as a poor man's son. What did he do? Lincoln started a system of universities all over the US so that any poor man's child could go to university and acquire knowledge and skills. When people are down, good leaders don't invest in keeping them down. Good leaders invest in lifting people up. I want to appeal to you to help lift up our people. The decision we make over the next few weeks and the months with regard to BBI will have a great bearing on whether our children grow up in a land of plenty or land of mere survival. Let us join hands and invest in our children and in their future. We must change the conversation. And that's why we are saying we want to start down where the rubber meets the road. And that is with the county assemblies, with you people. And as already been said by Nyokabi there, the president was very categorical when he was confronted with the MCAs from the Mount Kenya region. And he responded in the only way he could do, because he's also thinking and feeling what you guys are feeling. So if the MPs receive 7 million shillings car grant, why should it be a crime to give the same to MCAs? Why should it be a crime? Because you are the ones who are in daily contact with the electorate, with the daily contact with the people. And I know it because whenever I go to the rural areas, by 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, my home is full with the people. And they come with serious problems. Some of them carry sick people to my home. I ask them, am I a doctor? But you can't chase them away. You see, I say, even if you are a patient, you could just have come and tell me so and so is sick, and I give you some assistance. But you don't have to carry a patient to my home. So I fully understand what you guys meet on a daily basis. You guys go through. But what we want is you people to form a team with us so that we can change this country. This country can and must be transformed. But it must be transformed with forward-thinking leadership. A leadership that is prepared to confront the problem directly with the right solutions, not sloganeering, coming up with slogans which actually have no meaning. Atio mama mboga, atio mtu wa mkokoteni, atio mtu wa wheelbarrow, and so on. No mama mboga wants to sell mboga the rest of her life. No mtu mkokoteni want to push mkokoteni the rest of his life. We push mkokoteni for want of any other thing better to do. So we must create opportunities for mtu mkokoteni. That's why we're saying we are creating a fund for this person, which he will be able to access, and that will help him to transform himself. Instead of being an employee, he becomes an employer. And this is what is going to help our youth, so that our youth can be able to access cheap source of capital, interest-free, for 7 years, so that they can be able to develop meaningful enterprises. In my view, if that is not development, I don't know what development is. So BBI, I saw another group of people saying that they're a group to defend the Katiba. Defending Katiba against what? We are trying to improve the Katiba. We are not trying to mutilate the Katiba. BBI is aimed at improving the Katiba. What we had, as you know, was a compromise document. We went to Bomas, some revisionists did not agree and mutilated the Bomas draft, and we rejected it in 2005. Then came 2017, 2018 crisis. Then now, after that, after the Kofi Annan mediation, our team went to Naivasha. Naivasha was a firefighting document. It was a compromise document. It was not a document that all Kenyans wanted. So he said, there's room for it, for improvement. And some of you will know there are people who opposed it. You know the red carders. And you know those who are leading it. They're the ones who are now saying this constitution is very good. Then why were you opposing it in 2010? That is political hypocrisy. So you're saying you're making improvements. They're saying, oh, you are expanding the executive, you're increasing the costs. Nothing could be further from the truth. When in the Grand Coalition government, you had a president, you had a prime minister, you had 2 deputy prime ministers. All the president, the prime minister, the 2 deputy prime ministers were all members of parliament. So our main salary was coming from parliament as members of parliament. We were only getting extra allowances for the executive work that we were doing. And therefore it was cheaper at that time. And what we're trying to do now is return the executive back to parliament, so that a big chunk of ministers are going to be MPs. Their main salary is going to be as members of parliament. Right now, you've got them as members of parliament, then you recruit other people who are not MPs and you pay them full salaries and allowances as ministers. Now, you're only going to bring in a few from outside. And once you bring them in as ministers, they become also ex-officio members of parliament. It has been recognized and accepted worldwide that a parliamentary system is more accountable than a presidential system. Why? Because the executive is right there in parliament and must be held to account by members of parliament, accountable, and they must answer questions which are posed to them by members of parliament. In the presidential system, you've got parliamentary committees, ministers and PSS are being called to appear before a parliamentary committee. Sometimes there are extortions there, and so on and so forth. Lots of waste of time. I know it because I've been part of it. I've been in the executive. But you saw how the Grand Coalition government worked. We have the experience. I've been there. When we came to government with President Kibaki in 2003, the country was almost bankrupt. The revenue collection was only 200 billion shillings. The government was depending on some handouts from donors only. We increased it 2 billion to 5 billion to 7 billion to 1 trillion. And the growth went from 0 to 7%. So we know how to do it. We know how to change things. The problem is you cannot do it when you've got thieves in the government who are stealing. And that's why the president is frustrated, because he has got thieves in the government stealing by day and the night, and then they run around with monies in sacks. Oh, nataka kuja kufanya harambe kwa women groups, kuja kufanya harambe kwa youth groups, kanisa, every Sunday with sacks of money. The source of that money is not known. Unless we get rid of these thieves, Kenya will not rise up. So they are saying you're wasting money on MCAs. Why are you wasting money on MCAs? Ask them, where do you have the money to buy 8 helicopters? And running around with packs of money to the churches and so on in order to compromise the clergy. We are not against this. You said that the clergy should take that money, but don't worship the giver. Don't worship the giver. We told him, do what he used to do. In those days when YK92 was awash with money, they introduced the 500 shilling note called Jirongo. Later on they brought Patni, 1,000. And they are running around with a lot of money into towns, occupying all the bedrooms in hotels, and lavishly trying to bribe people around. We said, don't worry about them, but don't worship that money that they're giving. Don't say thank you. Take it, but don't say thank you. Wanakano ni wajinga na werevu hawana. Wanakano ni wajinga na werevu hawana. Ukiona wakilewa usidhani ni tajiri. Hiyo ni mali ya umma wameiba toka kwetu jama. Wape hiyo pombe yao. Wakilewa wakitapika ni shauri yao. Thank you.
Asante sana baba. Asante sana baba. ODM. ODM. Mumesikia baba vizuri, si ndivyo? Sasa Mheshimiwa Prime Minister, kwa ruhusa yako, kwa sababu hao wenzetu wametoka sehemu mbalimbali na wamekuwa wakitamani sana kupata fursa na wewe, tutaomba uwe mvumilivu kidogo tu, ili sasa tuweze kusikia kutoka pande huu, si ni kweli? Na tunataka tuchukue muda mfupi sana ili tuende lunch karibu 2 ama 2:30. Lakini nyinyi kwa sababu ndio wageni waheshimiwa wa leo, tungependa tupate fursa ya kuwasikiza nyote. Nitaomba muniruhusu nitumie huyu speaker wa county ya Nairobi ambaye yuko hapa, Mheshimiwa Bajiwa, pamoja na whip wa Nairobi yuko hapa, Mheshimiwa Imatok, kujaribu kuregulate time ya waheshimiwa wenzenu hawa ili tuweze kupata maoni mengi kutoka kila pahali. Tunakubaliana hiyo? Sasa bwana whip, I think tutaenda county by county, alafu tujaribu tuweke only 2 minutes from each county, ndio tuweze kusikiza county zote 47 ambazo ziko hapa leo hii. Tunakubaliana hiyo? Members, will as many of that opinion say aye? The ayes have it.